I'm currently in the bedroom. If you didn't see my last video, we're currently in the middle of moving, and we're actually moving this weekend, this Saturday, which means that the whole apartment is filled with boxes, moving boxes, stuff everywhere. Not very aesthetic for making a video. To be honest, I don't have a lot of time at the moment to create like really in-depth, structured, written, scripted kind of videos. So I just asked you guys on Instagram to ask me some questions about anything, and we're gonna do a Q&A video today. I will go through a lot of different things like living in Paris, working in France, all of that things in this video. This is also the last video that I'm filming in this apartment, which is crazy. Without any further ado, let's start the video. First question is, how tall are you? And there are actually many people who ask me how tall I am. I'm not sure why, that's always like a very important question. I used to be 180 centimeters for like a long time. I used to do modeling, so every single time I went to like a new agency abroad and they would measure my height, I would be like 180 centimeters. But since a couple of years, I feel like I have shrunk a little bit. I don't know if that's even possible. And the last time we actually checked with my boyfriend, I think like 2 years ago maybe, I was actually 178. So I'm somewhere around that range, 178, 180. I don't know if it's possible to shrunk because I'm not that old yet, so I don't know what happened there. I'm around like 5'10", 5'11" for you Americans out there. How did you meet your husband boyfriend? So he's my boyfriend. We met on Tinder almost 4 years ago, which is crazy because I don't think that I would ever use Tinder again to like meet people. But 4 years ago, it was just a different landscape. That was before like AI become what AI is today, and scamming people online became what scamming online people is today. So yeah, we met on Tinder, and I don't think that I would ever go on Tinder if we were not together. But it worked once, so that's good. Why did you move from Eastern Europe to Paris? Okay, so that's a long story. First and foremost, Hungarian people are gonna kill me saying that Hungary is Eastern Europe. To be honest, several reasons. I never really felt at home in Hungary ever since I was really young. Like my first memory of me wanting to move abroad was around maybe when I was like 12 years old. I always knew that I didn't want to live in Hungary ever since I was super young. So at the beginning, my dream when I was like 12 years old was to move to LA. Like that was my dream. And then when I was 13 years old, we went to Paris with my family for like a week. It was like a short like Easter holiday type of thing. We took the car as good Central Europeans do. My dad drove 17 hours to go to Paris because we didn't want to take the plane because it's more expensive. And I just totally fall in love with Paris. Like, I'm not even joking. I just remember being super like fascinated by like the culture, the language. Oh my god, the language sounds so beautiful. The food was amazing. I remember like one day we went to visit the Sorbonne University, like the Panthéon Sorbonne, and I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was like, I need to live here. I need to come here to study. This is my place. I feel at home here. And this never really happened before. Also, bear in mind that I traveled quite a lot when I was younger because living in Central Europe, you get to go to a lot of countries by car in a really short time. Like you can take the car, drive 3 hours from like my home country, and then you end up in Austria or Slovakia. You drive like, I think like maybe 6 hours and you're in Prague. So I traveled quite a lot when I was younger with my family because my parents really liked traveling and we had a car, so my dad was driving to different countries like every single time. But I never really felt this like falling in love kind of feeling with any of the places that I've been to when I was younger. And honestly, I just felt so connected to Paris in a way when I was like 13 years old that I kind of just decided that I want to move there and I want to live there. After that, I was still a high schooler, of course, so I didn't really know how to go about doing that, like how to move to another country. I just knew that if I wanted to move to Paris, I would have to go and learn French. And I didn't speak French at that time. I think I was in like elementary school at that point. Whatever comes before high school in your country. I was in that. I was 13 years old, so I was looking to get admitted to a high school very soon, because normally in Hungary you start high school at 15 years old. So I was looking at different high schools where I could learn French, and I found this one high school which was in my city that was kind of like this French bilingual high school. So basically I would have classes in French. I would learn French 25 hours per week. I would have most of my classes in French, like mathematics, history. So I applied to this particular high school and I got accepted, and then I was attending that school for 5 years, because bilingual high schools in Hungary are 5 years instead of just 4. And then I ended up graduating that school. I was fluent in French by the time I graduated from there. I did a couple of like exchanges in France with my school. I visited the south of France with my high school, because it was just like a French kind of themed high school. So I really got to experience French culture just by going to this one high school in Hungary. And that's kind of how I learned French and got familiarized with like French culture, French culture and France. But by the time that I was actually graduating, I no longer wanted to move to France, because I started modeling, I started traveling, and I kind of just wanted to work instead of like going to university or moving to France. So after graduating, I was modeling a couple of years, and since I already had this idea from way back then in my mind that I would study in France one day for like university studies, I just kind of started to like looking up universities, see what kind of French universities I could go to. I found one that I liked, which was one of the Sorbonne universities. I applied, I got accepted, and I moved to Paris. So why did I move from Eastern Central Europe to Paris? Is I moved to study, basically. And in addition to that, it's not crazy expensive if you go to a public university in France. I was studying 3 years, and my tuition fee for a year was 170 euros. Also, okay, I'm European, so obviously it's more expensive if you're an international student, but it's super affordable if you're French or if you're European. That's why I moved to France to study, and because I kind of had a fascination with France for a long time. The next question is kind of related to that. Why had you chosen to move to France instead of the USA? As a EU person, why the hell would I move to the States? There's literally like no benefit for me from that. Here in France, and even like back in Hungary, like I have public healthcare. I'm not saying it's free healthcare, because you still have to pay taxes and stuff, but it's more affordable than in the States. Security wise, your president is Trump. I can't see any benefits of me moving from Europe to the United States. I don't mean to be mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but it just doesn't make any sense as a European to move to the States, unless there is something specific you want to do there. Like, I don't know, you want to break into the movie industry, or you want to become a singer. Like, I understand, like in some cases you can only really achieve some goals in the United States, like career-wise, but you will never ever catch me moving to the States. If anything, I would move to Asia. Honestly, it's really hard for me to be in Asia because it's just so far away from my family. Like, France is 2 hours away from Budapest. So I can just take the plane and be there maybe in like 5 hours in total, because I have to get to the airport, stuff like that. But Asia is like at least an hours away. So it's extremely far away, but I really liked actually living in Asia. If I would ever move anywhere else outside of Europe, it would probably be like South Korea. So that's that, but not the US. No, thank you. Next. How hard it is to find a good job in Paris. It really depends on your industry, your level of experience, whether you're French, whether you're not French, whether you speak French, whether you don't speak French, whether you already worked in France, whether you have never worked in France. I would say it depends on a lot of things. There are just some industries, I would say globally everywhere, but we're talking about Paris. So in Paris, that are just so saturated. Like, I work in marketing, and finding a job in marketing as a fresh graduate with not a lot of experience as a foreigner is really hard. I think it's hard to find a job in France overall if you're not French and if you don't speak French, but it's still easier in Paris if you're a foreigner to find a job than in like a little random town in France. But if you're someone who doesn't speak French, not French, never worked in France, and doesn't have any kind of experience otherwise, it's hard. Now, if you're someone who already has a lot of experience, you work in an industry that's a bit less saturated, you speak French or you're French, then it's a lot easier, of course. But yeah, it really depends on your industry. It took me in total, I think 7 months to find a job in Paris. It's not that easy, but it's not possible. Will you stay in France forever? I would say yes. I don't see why I would ever leave. There are some people who think that just because I make comical, humoristic content about France and French people, that means that I hate France and I hate French people and I don't like living here. That's not true. I can be sarcastic, I can be comic, I can make humoristic content about France and still like living here. The two doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. I do like France, but I can also see the negative aspects of France, which is fine, which is what every single French people is already doing. So I don't see any reasons why I wouldn't continue living here. I already lived in so many countries, to be honest, that I know what I like in a country and I know what I don't like in a country. And what I like in a country, a lot of it France has. I would say most of what I like in a country, France has it. There's so much variety in France. The food is amazing. I speak the language. The language is really nice, to be honest. It's hard to learn, but French language is beautiful. And I'm really sorry that I still have a really strong accent and I haven't mastered the language very well yet, but we're getting there. I don't see why I would move away. So, answer is, I think yes, but you never know what life brings, do you? This one is in French, so I'll always try to read it in my most beautiful French accent. Tu te sens que tu es une étrangère après toutes ces années en France? Yes, to be honest. Honestly, Paris is like such a diverse city, population-wise. There's so many different people, so I don't think that like in Paris specifically, anybody's like 100% like Parisian or 100% French. But to be fair, I still feel like a foreigner because it's just so hard to relate sometimes to things like culturally like French people talk about. And even if I like try to like learn more about like the culture, like kind of like the things that everybody grew up with, it's not something that you can really learn. Like you grew up with certain things and you just know those things, and sometimes when those things come up in your life or in like public, like the French people can relate to it. I don't know how to explain this, but yeah, it's just really hard to relate to like French people's experience, like growing up in France, because I don't have that experience. Like I have certain experiences related to life in France, such as going to university in France. I can really relate to that when I talk with French people about it. Like we have the same experiences, even though I'm a foreigner. Or working in France. If I talk with a French person about working in France, because I also work in France, like we have that same common point. But I have no clue what it's like to like grow up here, like since you were a kid, like grow up here, go to high school here, go to elementary school here, like go to like crèche, college, like all of these things. I have no clue. And it's really hard to like learn that or like ask about that from people and they like tell you like, oh, in France, maybe go to high school, it's like this. There are a lot of things that I can't really relate to that makes me feel like a foreigner. To be honest, if I would have to say what I feel like here, I feel like a European. I feel like I'm a foreigner, but I feel like I'm just like another European. So in that way, I can relate to French people, like, oh, we're both Europeans. Like, our culture is not crazy different. Like, yeah, I just don't have those, like, reference points that French people share, and I don't have those. And that's fine. So I feel like that's the end of it. I think this was maybe a little bit of a shorter video this time, but I'm moving. So I promise, once I have moved, I will get back to making more elaborated, longer, and more frequent videos again. But this week I just really have to focus on moving. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure to watch this video next that YouTube thinks is the best for you. Thank you so much. See you guys soon and bye.